Respected fellow practitioners and guests, in yesterday's talk, we had started on the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed is when we want something. We want something that we have. We want more of something that we have, or we want something new. Or we wish to possess someone. Next is anger. Anger is animosity. It is the aversion that we have towards others when they reject our ideas or when they irritate us. The 3rd poison is ignorance, improper thoughts and viewpoints. Yesterday we were talking about greed. Another example of greed, other than what we were talking about yesterday, is that for food. This is a greed that many of us are subject to. One of the ways we can counteract our greed is trying to change through behavior. For example, with food. Each time we think of something that we would like to eat, each time we see something and think how good it would taste, we need to start to change by eradicating that thought. But this is very difficult for us to do, because changing through behavior is the most difficult way to change. What we might try when we are trying to eradicate our greed for food is to simply eat whatever is placed in front of us, with no thoughts of differentiating between I like this, but I don't like that. Another way of counteracting our greed would be to not eat until we are completely full, but eat until we're approximately 70% full. Then stop eating. It is pointless to keep eating until we are so full that we become very uncomfortable. In one of the books that we often talk about, Mr. Liao Fan's 4 Lessons, we learned that he and a Zen master sat in meditation for 3 days without break, without sleep. They did not stop for lunch, for dinner, for afternoon snacks, and yet they did not get hungry. How were they able to do this? They maintained a state of deep concentration. They did not have wandering thoughts. Wandering thoughts are the cause, one of the causes, of our becoming hungry. Often, when we are doing something, very busy at work, or doing something that we enjoy doing, somebody will say, "It's time to go eat." And we will say, "Just a minute, I'm working on something." And we really don't feel hungry. We may even find that several hours pass and we still haven't eaten, and we really don't feel hungry. Or if we think about eating, we again think about work, and before we realize it, we're not even hungry anymore. This is because our deep concentration has eradicated our thoughts of hunger. Our greed arises from our selfishness. thinking this body is me. I need to eat. And this is where all greed arises from selfishness. The second of the three poisons is that of anger. Anger arises when our greed is not satisfied, when we do not get what we want. Feeling frustrated, we give rise to anger. Anger is the cause of our being born into the hell realms. Greed is the cause of our being born into the hungry ghost realm. The third of the three poisons, ignorance, is the cause of our being born into the animal realms. Anger is one of our major problems today. We encounter it before we even realize what is happening. Somebody says something, and instantly, before we realize it, we are angry. It is too late to try to control the anger. It has already blown up. When this happens, we can try to think about why we have become angry. This anger did not just start today. It did not start yesterday, last week. It started many, many lifetimes ago. In a distant past lifetime, one of us said something to the other. We didn't mean to hurt the other one's feelings. We just didn't think. We said something carelessly. And we didn't even realize that we had hurt the other person. They only thought about it for the merest of seconds. And then they too forgot about it. But deep within them, the imprint of what had happened remained. When we meet again in the next lifetime, maybe in 100 lifetimes, in 1,000 lifetimes, but when we again meet, the other person will, on a deeper level, remember that anger. And they will say something to us, this time with a very small intention to irritate us. But that is all. They mean nothing else. But we remember on our deep level. This anger gets passed back and forth each time we encounter one another. And each time we do so, this anger gets a little stronger. And it continues to go back and forth until just saying something to hurt the other is not enough. One of us will need to strike the other. And in a later lifetime, we will get into a fight. And then, in one of our lifetimes, merely fighting will not be enough. Our revenge, our need for revenge, will go more deeply. We will feel it more strongly. One of us will kill the other. We need to understand that all this came about because of one careless thought. We did not mean to say anything to hurt the other. We were just not really paying attention to what we were saying. And this is how that anger, that hatred started. And this is the cause of the conflicts, the cause of the wars in our world today. If we understand this, if we can understand that yes, this person has said something to anger me, but I am not a helpless victim in this. This person is not the only one at fault. We have been doing this for many lifetimes. We can continue doing this. Or one of us can choose to stop what is happening right now. One of us can think and realize that this anger can continue to grow, can continue to become worse. Or we can realize what is happening and simply let go of the anger. When we become angry, we accomplish nothing. We do not resolve what is going on. It solves nothing. If we respond in anger, the anger simply grows stronger. If we try to respond with logic when the other person is angry, often this will not help to diffuse the anger. Think about how it feels when we ourselves are angry. If we are angry and somebody tells us, calm down, don't be angry, that's very often the very last thing we want to hear. It takes a very special person who can say to us, don't be angry, when we are very angry, for it to have any real effect. The anger is coming from within ourselves. The other person really isn't making us angry. We are making us angry. We allow what the other person says to bother us. We think about it. We get angry. But we are doing all this. We can also understand what is going on. And we can choose to let go of the anger. Maybe we choose not to say anything further. Maybe instead of replying angrily to them, we can even learn how to simply say, Ami Tofo. Maybe we say nothing. In this way, the other person's anger will die down more quickly because we are not responding to them. Later on, we may try talking to them. Maybe we ask them what we did that upset them. Maybe we apologize for having done so. Often, all the other person needs to hear is, I'm sorry. And this may be enough to control, to reduce, to eradicate the anger on their part. We were saying yesterday, think about how it feels to be angry. It does not feel good. Now, realize the other person feels equally unhappy, upset, unsettled. Out of compassion for the other person, we can do what we need to try to reduce this anger, to try to find the way to resolve what is going on between us. If we cannot do so, if we cannot find a way to reduce, to eradicate, to stop what is happening, if nothing else, we might try simply avoiding the person, or avoiding the circumstance that seems to trigger this hostility. We can think about what happened in this instance. What did we do? What were the circumstances that made the other person become angry, that made us become angry? Then we can think how to avoid those circumstances in the future. We have many affinities in our lives. These are relationships with people from our past lifetimes. With some people, we have good affinities. When we are with them, we feel happy. When we met them, we might have felt like we were meeting an old friend, and actually, we were. These people simply make us feel good, feel happy when we are around them. But there are others that we have negative affinities with. When we first met these people, they may not have said anything to us. We simply did not like them. We felt uncomfortable around them. These are negative affinities from our past lifetimes. When we have these, when we know that this person just seems to irritate us as much as we seem to irritate them, if we cannot resolve this through logic, through understanding, through calmly discussing what the problem is, and sometimes this is very difficult to do, then until one of us can begin to get more of a control over our emotions, we can simply remove the conditions. In cause and effect, in karma, first we plant the cause. In our lifetime, now, what is happening, all the seeds of what is happening to us today were planted in previous lifetimes. Very little of what is happening to us in this lifetime now is the result of what we did earlier in this lifetime. It is largely from our past lifetimes. This cause has already been created. We cannot change it. But what we can do is control the condition. Cause is a constant. It cannot be changed. But condition is a variable. It can change. A condition, a catalytic condition, is what allows a cause to mature, to result in a consequence. For example, a seed is literally a cause. For this seed to mature, it needs the catalytic conditions of soil, sun, air, water. When all these conditions are present, the seed can mature. But we can control the seed, the cause from maturing. We simply withhold the conditions. We withhold the sun, air, water, or soil. Without these, the seed cannot grow. The cause cannot mature because the proper conditions do not exist. So if we can do nothing else to diffuse this anger, we can control the conditions. There is an account of a practitioner who had very deep wisdom because he was a very good practitioner and had attained a good level of concentration. He was able to see shortly into the future, and he knew that at some point in a certain city in China, a certain person would kill him because he had killed that person in a previous lifetime. Knowing this, he also understood that although he had attained some achievement in his practice, he had not developed anywhere near the ability that if he was killed, he would not feel anger when this happened. Knowing what the conditions were, he knew he could control the conditions. So he avoided those conditions. He did not go to that particular city in China for many years. He continued to cultivate, to practice very sincerely, very diligently. He reached the level where he knew he could control the anger to where it would not arise. That he really, truly understood what was happening in those circumstances. And when he knew he would not get angry, he went to that city. He met the person who killed him. But since he had controlled the conditions, he was able to not give rise to anger. And he was able to stop the anger, the hatred, at that point. He did this not just for himself, but for the other person as well, because he understood if he gave rise to the anger, then he would kill that person in the future. This is a very high level of attainment, and most of us are unable to achieve this level. But we can still manage to control conditions on a much lesser basis if we know somebody constantly irritates us. We can try to avoid them. And we can practice doing everything we can to control our anger. We can understand every time we become angry, why? we are becoming angry. That we are allowing ourselves to feel this way. The other person isn't doing it to us. We are doing it to ourselves. This is how we begin to control the conditions. Why do we become angry? We do so because we are attached to ourselves, to me, to the concept of I. Somebody says something. Maybe somebody criticizes us. This is a major problem that we have. We have many faults, but we do not like others to point them out to us. When somebody points out a fault, they, like we, often do so in a rather untactful manner, and they may hurt our feelings. Very few people are able to correct us, to criticize us, without our feeling resentful, feeling, I didn't do that. Why are you saying I did? Or maybe we feel guilty. Maybe we feel embarrassed. Subconsciously, we know we have this fault, but we don't like the other person pointing it out to us. Maybe they criticize us in front of others, and we were embarrassed. So we become defensive. We become angry. We defend ourselves. It is very difficult when somebody is criticizing us in front of others for us to very calmly say, you're absolutely right. I did do that. I'll try not to do it in the future. This is very difficult for us to do. Normally, what we do is start to defend ourselves. And we become angry. Maybe in defending ourselves, we start criticizing the other person. Instead of doing this, what we need to do is start to try to think about what the other person said. There can be two things going on here. Number one, we do have this fault. If we do, we can go off by ourselves. Maybe we go off with a friend whom we feel very comfortable with, and maybe we can talk about it with this friend. And we talk about this fault. And maybe this friend can help us as we are talking to think about how we can correct this fault in the future. Or maybe we simply go off by ourselves. We calm down, and then we think about what the person said. And we think, do I have this fault? And we discover that it was not an unfounded criticism. This is something I do that is wrong. Then we think how to correct this fault in the future. This person has helped us. I have said there are two things that can be going on here. One, we have the fault. And they have very helpfully pointed out one of our many faults to us. Number two, we do not have this fault. But we can guard against it in the future. We can think to ourselves, I really don't think I have this particular fault. I have many faults. This is one I don't have. But I don't want to develop it in the future. And then we forget about it. We don't need to constantly go over it and feel, poor me, they're picking on me again. Forget about it. If they criticized us, and we did do what they say, they have pointed out one of our faults, and we know what we need to correct in the future. But if they have misjudged us, and they have criticized us for something we have not done, then what they have said has reduced our negative karma. They have just done us a kindness. If we can accept and not get angry, not become defensive, not become irritated, not feel anything negative, or if we do, let go of it as quickly as possible. If we can just let go of it, they will have helped us to reduce our negative karma. And we have much negative karma. But by criticizing us unfairly, unjustly, they have actually done us a kindness. If somebody has done something kind for us, how can we become angry? They have just, intentionally, unintentionally, done us a favor. When a friend does us a favor, we don't become angry. We appreciate the favor. Even if this friend was not doing something out of kindness, they are still helping us. They are still doing us a kindness. So we in turn appreciate it. If they continue criticizing us, there is no need to respond. If we respond and defend ourselves, we know what happens in this circumstance. They say something that hurts us. We respond. This argument keeps going back and forth. They say, yes, you did. We say, no, we didn't. Yes, you did. No, we didn't. And this goes on, and it keeps getting louder and stronger and worse. And neither one of us is accomplishing anything other than planting more and more seeds for criticism, unhappiness, anger in the future. They may not realize what is going on. We know what is going on because we know about cause and effect. And we know what is going on is because of what happened in the past. And what is going on will continue in the future. Everything arises from the mind. What happens in the future depends on what we think, say, do in this very moment. If we argue, we plant the seeds for arguing in the future. If we understand, we plant the seeds for understanding in the future. if we appreciate the fact that this person may have been kind, not on purpose, but still they were kind. They helped reduce our negative karma. And if we can appreciate this and react with kindness by stopping the anger, then we plant the seeds for kindness in our future. When we start planting more seeds of kindness, of loving kindness for others, we will only create good conditions in our lives. If we do this so much, so sincerely, because we have gone beyond the point of thinking, this person irritates me. I do not wish to become irritated by this person in the future. I need to get a handle on this now. If we can go beyond this, if we can think, I am frustrated, angry, but this person is just as frustrated, just as angry. For their sake, I need to stop this now. When we do this, when we don't even think of how we feel, when we are only thinking, how does the other person feel? I don't want them to feel badly in the future. Then we are acting in accordance with our true nature. And the goodness that we are creating is not just a small goodness. It is infinite goodness. We read in Liao Fan's 4 lessons of a man who had his destiny foretold, and for years everything turned out exactly as had been destined. So he believed, he knew destiny existed. But he had the good fortune to meet a good teacher who told him how to change his destiny, who told him to correct his faults, to change his behavior, to think unselfishly, to think only of others, to give up thoughts of self, to create all that is good, to avoid everything that is bad. In this way, Mr. Liao Fan created so much goodness in his life that he was able to change his future in his current life. I said earlier, most of what happens in this lifetime is what we created in our past lifetimes. It is difficult to change what is destined to happen in this lifetime. We have to do much that is good or much that is evil to change this very lifetime. That is what Mr. Liao Fan did. And one of Mr. Liao Fan's bad habits was becoming angry. He enjoyed arguing with others. He didn't think how others felt. He did whatever he wanted. When others irritated him, he would very cleverly respond in anger. He was very intelligent. He could hurt others with his speech. And he would do so, knowing he was hurting others. But he learned how to think of others. He learned how to control his anger. In this way, he completely changed everything in his life. He was supposed to die at the age of 53, but he lived until 74. He was not supposed to have children at a time when having sons to carry on the family name was very important. He ended up having 2 sons. Mr. Liao Fan lived 500 years ago. And for many of us, this story feels very distant from us. How do we relate to Mr. Liao Fan in China when we are now in Australia 500 years later? The lessons that Mr. Liao Fan learned are the truth. The truth is not bound by geography, by time. The truth is the same whether it is in China, Australia, this world, or a distant world. The truth remains the same throughout the past, present, and future. The truth is the same regardless of the language that it is spoken in. And the truths that Mr. Liao Fan learned to control his anger were all based on cause and effect. He learned that all his bad things that were happening every day in his lifetime, his state of not having much money, of barely being able to support his wife, of not having the things that they wanted, of not being able to pass the imperial examination, all the difficult things in his life were the result of what he had done in the past. And so much of it depended on his having become angry in the past. Today, everything we encounter has the potential for causing us anger. We can decide whether we give rise to that anger. We can control it through behavior. We can say, I am not going to give in to that anger again. But this is very difficult to do. This means we have to catch that anger before it even begins to arise. And this is very difficult. The second way to change is to try to understand the reasoning. We know all about cause and effect. We know why we get angry. We know why we will suffer anger in the future. So we try to understand through understanding, through reasoning. And this is the second way we change our behavior. The third way to change is from the heart. We understand how badly we feel when we become angry. We understand when somebody criticizes us and we feel hurt and angry, we understand how badly we feel, and we know the other person feels just as badly. And we understand, we feel compassion for them, and we really don't want them to feel like this, like we are now feeling. When we try to change through behavior, it's very difficult because we have to catch each incident that makes us irritated. And we have to catch the anger before it arises. Changing through understanding is also very difficult. Changing from the heart is to change from within. It is to no longer even have the thought of getting even. It is to not have the thought of you hurt me, I want to hurt you. To not have the thought of you criticized me, I need to defend myself. It is to not have the thought of anger even arise. When we do this, when we are sincerely trying to help others, then we are truly generating kindness in our futures. We can do this in everything in our lives. The causes of anger are many. We encounter things that can make us angry. Driving to work, at work, after we are home, at school, when we are out with other people, when we are by ourselves. But everything depends on how we react. We can give in to the anger, or we can realize that if somebody has said something unkind when normally in the past we would have become angry, we can control it. And we can think kindly of them for helping to reduce our negative karma. We can do this. We can choose exactly how we react. And by doing this, we can plant the seeds for all the good things that we want to happen in our lives. Reflect within. Think about the faults that we have. Think about how we feel when we become angry. Think about how we feel when we are with those we love. Think about how we feel when we are sitting calmly, reciting a sutra, chanting the Buddha's name. Think about that quiet state of serenity. Which do we prefer? The anger or the serenity? It's entirely up to us which we will feel in the future. It's entirely up to us what others around us will experience in the future. It is entirely up to us. What our world, what other people in this world, other beings throughout the universe will experience. It all starts from within us. Our serenity, our joy starts from deep within us. Then it grows to include those around us. Then it includes all those who simply encounter us. Finally, it includes every being throughout the universe. If we do this every moment, consciously thinking only of helping all others, we will bring happiness, serenity to all beings in the universe. Thank you. Let us read the dedication of merit together. May the merit and virtue accrued from this work adorn the Buddha's Pure Land, repaying the four kindnesses above, relieving the suffering of those in the three paths below. May those who see and hear of this all bring forth the heart of understanding and live the teachings for the rest of this life. Then be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. Homage to Buddha, Amitabha.